Good morning. My name is Greg Nosan. I use he, him pronouns, and I'm a worship associate here at the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Cleveland. We acknowledge that we're gathering on the original lands of the Erie and of the Haudenosaunee and the Anishinaabe peoples, also known as the Three Fires Council. We recognize the need to learn more about our complex, sometimes painful histories, to care for the land we inhabit, and to show respect to the diverse peoples and cultures who preceded us, as well as those who gather here now. Our congregation is working to build relationships with the Lake Erie Native American Council as a way of living into these words. This community strives to celebrate the inherent worth and dignity of every person, and part of that celebration includes radical hospitality. Whoever you are, whatever you look like, whomever you love, this is your place. Wherever you came from, whatever you believe, however you found us, we invite you to share your story, tell us what matters to you, and help us shape this congregation together. Each of us is drawn here for our own reasons. For me, those include to know and be known, to love and be loved, to live into my values, and help repair the world. Whether this is your first visit or your 100th, I hope you'll find some of what you're looking for here today. I know for certain that there's a lot of connection, comfort, courage, and joy waiting for you in this beloved community. I'd like to offer a special welcome to those of you who are joining us for the first time. If you're interested in learning more about who we are and what we do, just complete a guest card, which you can find in the pew rack in front of you. Place it in the collection plate as it goes around, and we'll make sure to get in touch. If you're watching remotely, we invite you to visit our website at uucleveland.org or just send us an email. As we prepare to enter into sacred time and space, connecting with our deepest selves and with one another, please take a moment to set any of your electronic devices to worship mode. We welcome as our chalice lighter Kathleen Bennig this morning. Kathleen wants you to know that she's been around here for a long time and that she's done a lot of things. We're in a walking group together, which I love, and Kathleen also wants you to know that she's in the Ladies' Laughter group, which she loves. I think she's in a lot of groups she loves. And she's also teaching a new class for young adults called Is it called Becoming? Okay. Coming of Age. I think it's also called Becoming. Thank you, Kathleen, for everything that you are and everything you do. Please join me, the rest of you, in reciting the words of our chalice lighting, which you can find on the yellow card in the pew rack in front of you. We cultivate trust with one another by celebrating differences, honoring boundaries, and offering compassion and care. We listen to each other deeply with curiosity and wonder. We speak for ourselves without need to defend ourselves or persuade each other. We create safe and brave space for healthy conflict, creativity, and fun. We reconcile through forgiving and making amends when we hurt one another.
Good morning. It's a pleasure to be with you this morning. I'm the Reverend Dr. Matthew Johnson, he, him pronouns, and I serve our Unitarian Universalist Association in the Midwest region. Over in Illinois is where my home base is, but I'm often in the Cleveland area, and I know Reverend Randy and some of you from Central East Regional Summer Institute. I see some familiar faces out there, and it's a pleasure to be with you for worship this morning. I bring you greetings from your primary contact in the Central East region, Cassandra Montenegro, who works with your congregation. Our words for our call to worship this morning are from the Reverend Rebecca Parker, the recently retired president of our seminary in California, who writes in part, "Your gifts, whatever you discover them to be, can be used to bless or curse the world. The mind's power, the strength of the hands, the reaches of the heart, the gift of speaking, listening, imagine, seeing, waiting. Any of these can serve to feed the hungry, bind up wounds, welcome the stranger, praise what is sacred, do the work of justice, or offer love. Any of these can draw down the prison door, hoard bread, abandon the poor, obscure what is holy, comply with injustice, or withhold love. You must answer this question: what will you do with your gifts? Choose to bless the world. None of us alone can save the world. Together, that is another possibility, waiting.
In a few seconds, we'll sing together Answering the Call of Love, whose lyrics appear in your order of service. But before we do that, we're going to greet one another. If you can, take a moment to seek out somebody new or a person you haven't talked to in a while. Ask them what they've been up to or how they're doing, and watch the magic happen. Now's the time in our service that we remember that we need one another and that we bring all sorts of things into this space, things that brighten our lives and things that are sorrowful. Some of you have already come forward and placed a stone in the water, and some of you have written your thoughts in our book. I'm going to share the two thoughts that are here. On November 12th, one of us wrote that Kat Papkin's mother fell and dislocated her ankle. She's awaiting surgery. Please pray for swift healing. Another message from Peggy this morning says that she wishes healing for my sister Jan, who is going through recovery from chemo, and for my brother-in-law Tom, who is recovering from foot surgery. And she sends her thanks. I'd invite the rest of you to come forward now too, if you're here in person, and if you're joining us online, to share your joys and concerns using the comments feature. I'd encourage you also to send prayers to the folks I've mentioned, to all those who will share what's on their hearts today, and to everyone in our community and the wider world who all need your loving kindness. We recognize that everything we bring into this community is important and belongs to all of us now, and that by sharing our burdens, we lessen them, and by sharing our joys, they're magnified.
Good morning. My name is Jenny Papp, and I need a prop. No, I need a stand. I am the Director of Lifespan Faith Development in this congregation. My pronouns are she and they. Reverend Matthew asked me to share this story with you this morning, so I will do that. This story is, I was familiar with it. The story is about Sheila Ray, and it's written by Kevin Hankes. Does anybody know the story of Sheila Ray the Brave? Yes. Well, to know a little bit about Sheila Ray has a family and lives in a house. She lives in her house. Her family is her mother and her father and her little sister, Louise. And for my friends who are joining us here, if you want to follow along, the storybook's right there of Sheila Ray too, so if you want to follow along. Sheila Ray wasn't afraid of anything. She wasn't afraid of the dark. Has anybody here ever been afraid of the dark even once? Me too. She wasn't afraid of thunder and lightning. My dog is afraid of thunder. Anybody afraid of thunder and lightning? Yeah, maybe. She was not afraid of the big black dog at the end of the block. She probably was not afraid of bears. So at dinner, when she got her fruit cocktail, remember that? Fruit cocktail with the big red cherries in it, she pretended those were the eyes of bears and she ate them. 5 of them. At school, when the principal walked by down the hall, she giggled right behind the principal's back. When her classmate, Wendell, stole her jump rope at recess, she got it back and then tied Wendell up for the rest of recess. She did untie Wendell prior to going back to class, though. So, when the bell rang. I am very brave, Sheila Ray said, patting herself on the back. Can you pat yourself on the back? I am very brave. Sheila Ray stepped on every crack in the sidewalk when she went home. What happens if you do that? You might break your mother's back. But she didn't think that would happen. She was not afraid. When her sister Louise said there was a monster in the closet, she opened the closet door and she attacked the monster. Problem solved, right? No fear. And when she rode her bicycle, she went hands in the air, eyes closed, while her friends cheered her on. Yay, Sheila Ray! Yay, Sheila Ray! And she didn't fall. She was not afraid. She was brave. Well, one day, when Sheila Ray and Louise were walking home from school, Sheila Ray decided that she wanted to take a new way home. Louise was not down with that. She said, I don't really know where we're going. I'm afraid. And she said, you're too brave for me, Sheila Ray. You're always such a scaredy cat, as sisters sometimes do to one another. Not so kind. Not so kind. Am not, whispered Louise. And Sheila Ray decided to go. And Louise did not. Sheila Ray started off skipping down the street, down the street. I am brave, I am fearless. She stepped on every crack all the way, and she walked backwards with her eyes closed. She went across the street a couple times and down the block and around the corner. When she saw the stray dogs, she growled at them. Can you do that? Growl at those stray dogs. When she saw the stray cats, she hissed at them. Exactly. That's what she did. And suddenly, though, she looked around and she realized that nothing looked familiar anymore. And all of a sudden, she heard frightening noises. They sounded worse than thunder. She started backing up a little. She thought horrible thoughts now, and those thoughts were worse than anything she had ever imagined. I am brave. I am Sheila Ray the brave. I am brave. She tried to convince herself, I am fearless. The sounds became more frightening. The thoughts became scarier and more horrible. And she sat down on a rock. And she thought about her mom and her dad and her little sister Louise. And she said, Mom, Dad, Louise, I'm right here, said a voice. Louise had been following along behind, hiding behind the trees, and following her brave sister home. And she ran to Sheila Ray, and Sheila Ray hugged her. And she said, Louise, Louise, we're lost. No, we're not, said Louise. We're not lost. I know the way home. You can follow me. So on the way home, Louise stepped on every crack, and she walked backwards with her eyes closed. She growled at those dogs, and she hissed at the stray cats. And Sheila Ray walked quietly behind her, and they walked, and they walked, and they crossed the street, and they went around a corner, and eventually they could see their house through the trees. At that point, Sheila Ray grabbed Louise, and they ran up the rest of the street. And after they got into the yard and closed the gate behind them, Sheila Ray said, Louise, you are brave, and you are fearless. We both are, said Louise. And they took hands, and they walked backwards with their eyes closed into the house together. That is Sheila Ray, the brave, and Louise, the brave. Thank you for sharing that story with me this morning.
Thanks, Jenny. Last July, as you will recall, the Trump administration and its backers in Congress defunded Planned Parenthood as part of their years-long strategy to shut down Planned Parenthood health centers and block access to sexual and reproductive health care. As a result, patients most in need of affordable care, especially in rural or underserved areas, face a terrible choice: scramble to pay more, navigate a worsening healthcare system to find another provider, or go without care entirely. Planned Parenthood is doing everything in their power to deliver as much care as possible for as long as possible, especially to Medicaid patients, whom they have served free of charge, absorbing millions of dollars in costs that would typically be reimbursed by Medicaid. But they can't do this without your financial help, which I'm asking for on their behalf now. So please place your offering, cash or check, made payable to UUCC in the collection plate as it's passed. As it tells you in your order of service, you can also contribute via Zelle or via Cash App, and you can use the memo line to indicate whether your contribution is for today's plate, your annual pledge, or something else. please give generously.
First reading this morning is excerpts from the book of Esther in the Hebrew Scriptures. And the story here is that Esther and her family have been exiled to a foreign land, and the king there has fallen in love with Esther and married her as one of his wives. But an advisor of the king has convinced the king that all of the realm's problems are due to this group of refugees and immigrants that is in their land, namely the Jews in this case. And Esther's uncle Mordecai has discovered that this advisor has convinced the king to exterminate, to murder all of the Jews that are in this land. Here's where the story picks up. When Mordecai learned of all that had been done, he tore his clothes and put on sackcloth and ashes and went out into the city, wailing loudly and bitterly. But he went only as far as the king's gate, because no one clothed in sackcloth was allowed to enter it. In every province to which the edict and order of the king came, there was a great mourning among the Jews, with fasting and weeping and wailing. Many lay in sackcloth and ashes. When Esther's eunuchs and female attendants came and told her about Mordecai, she was in great distress. She sent clothes for him to put on instead of his sackcloth, but he would not accept them. Then Esther summoned Hatak, one of the king's eunuchs, and assigned to attend her, and ordered him to find out what was troubling Mordecai and why. She didn't know about the order. Hatak went back and reported to Esther what Mordecai had said, and then she instructed him to say to Mordecai, "All of the king's officials and the people of the royal provinces know that for any man or woman who approaches the king in the inner court without being summoned, the king has but one law, that they be put to death, unless the king extends the gold scepter to them and spares their lives. But 30 days have passed since I was called to the king." That's her answer when Mordecai says, "You go to the king and convince him to spare your people." She says, "I can't. I haven't been invited to speak." When Esther's words were reported to Mordecai, he sent back this answer: "Do not think that because you are in the king's house that you alone of all the Jews will escape this order. For if you remain silent at such a time, relief and deliverance for the Jews will arise from another place, but you and your father's family will perish. And who knows but that you have been made for such a time as this."
I'm going to read Michelle L. Mills's article, Inhabiting the World, which begins with a quote from the author Rebecca Solnit's, The Far Away Nearby. Here's what Solnit says: "The bigness of the world is redemption. Despair compresses you into a small space, and a depression is literally a hollow in the ground. To dig deeper into the self, to go underground, is sometimes necessary. But so is the other route of getting out of yourself into the larger world, into the openness in which you need not clutch your story and your trouble so tightly to your chest." Here's what Michelle L. Mills has to say. "For the past year and a half, I've been receiving daily emails from USA Jobs, the employment site of the federal government. I used to receive notices about a huge variety of interesting jobs with U.S. Fish and Wildlife, CDC, Veterans Administration, NOAA, USDA, EPA, Forestry Service, along with others. Now the only departments hiring are Navy, Air Force, and Homeland Security. It strikes me how clearly this expresses this administration's worldview. If all you emphasize is war and defending and expelling, your only relationship with the world is fear and anger and aggression. That recognition stops me in my tracks. At any moment in our lives, we have a choice about how to inhabit the world. We can notice the child needing help, the wonder of salmon spawning in a river where they have not been witnessed for decades, the librarian feeding the curiosity of someone who wants to know about the history of country music or how to build a chicken coop. When I put myself in the shoes of any person who approaches the world with anger and distrust, my body has a physical response. I feel claustrophobic and contracted, ready to spring out and destroy anything that comes close, because everything is a threat. It feels tense and vigilant, ready to kill and control in order to feel safe. The irony is that no matter how much control it gets, it will never feel safe. Its aggression makes it impossible to notice all of the possibilities for beauty and kindness. That's not the way I want to inhabit the world. Sometimes I try to feel what it might be like from the other side. What if I were a salmon fighting my way upstream to lay eggs and then die? Or the huge sequoia that's grown for a millennium? Or the mushroom growing at the foot of that tree? Every moment, our breath is a powerful antidote for the disembodiment of fear and anger. It's a way to return to ourselves, an invitation to feel our body on the earth and inhale the beauty of existence, to allow that to infuse our very essence, then pause in silent reverence, and then to exhale in sacred offering to all beings.
Have you ever had a Sheila Ray lost in the woods moment? Anybody? Not like literally lost in the woods, or maybe that too. Have you had a time when you were so confident, you knew the way, you knew what to do, you felt competent, you were assured that the world was orderly, and then as some of our forebears used to say, that you could rely on progress upward and onward forever, you knew the way, and then you found yourself lost in the woods? Have you had this moment? I have, that is for sure, and it is so disorienting. I've had these personal moments when relationships ended, right? That's a big one. We feel very lost. Thought we had it figured out, and oof, nope. Or when parenting was much harder than I thought it was going to be, and isn't it often harder than we think it's going to be? I've had a lot of these lost in the woods moments recently when I think about the world around us. When I listen to the news, I think, what? What? Have you had this feeling? As a liberal growing up at the end of the 20th century, what Francis Fukuyama called the end of history, I was taught that civil rights was won, that the war was over, that democracy was victorious, and the arc of the universe was almost at its destination. Did you learn something like this too? And here we are. So maybe you're feeling a little Sheila Ray, lost in the woods. We were told certain things, and here we are, and those things like fog evaporate, and we cannot get a handle. Now, some folks, they have been lost in the woods before. They have no illusions, no sense of inevitable progress in their bones and in their blood and in their history and their present. They know damn well that sometimes the way is blocked, sometimes you are misled, that they will destroy you if they can, and sometimes they can. No illusions. And that is, I'm sure, some of you. No illusions. You knew to carry a map and a compass, and even that might not save you. And maybe some who have been lost before or who know the way. They're like Sheila Ray's little sister Louise, who knows how to help and knows the way. She had become made for such a time as this. Here's my fundamental conviction. We can become made for such a time as this. We can meet this moment. We can become more mature, more wise, more strategic, more brave, not through overconfidence or naive nonsense or through what some call the audacity, but through depth, through spiritual practice, through a deeper courage of heart, through letting go and becoming, through transformation and love. We can become made for such a time as this. Esther had to summon her courage to be shaped by her faith in her family, her conscience, and through practice, and then to go from this story before the ruler. That's what happens next. She goes before her husband, the king, and to ask for her people to be protected. Like she said, the penalty for going without being summoned was death, but she went anyway. She was terrified that such asking would destroy her, but she came to know that she was made for such a time as this. That what she had learned and done and loved had made her ready for that moment, and her people were saved by her persuasion. Most of us, though, I need to say, are not already made for such a time as this. But we can become made for such a time as this. As a faith and as a people, there is a way. There's no inevitability here. There's freedom and there's possibility. We're using the phrase meet the moment to talk about this together as Unitarian Universalists, and the first question that we're asking is, what is the moment? My sense is that there are three massive forces that are shaping this moment for Unitarian Universalist congregations and leaders. The first is this long trend of loneliness, of isolation, of declining habits of volunteerism and participation and connection. This is not new, but every year it seems to get worse. We've been bowling alone for a while now. People are lonely. Making friends as an adult is really hard. There are less clubs and activities, and folks say they're busy, sit in their cars commuting, watch shows and post about it, but connecting with others is maybe not as much. I read once that the real miracle of Jesus was not him walking on water or healing the sick or even rising from the dead. It's that a man in his 30s had 12 friends. "11, I guess, but still. Some of you got that joke. Some of you will need to look it up. There are, though, these shoots of new life that I see. The young mom who says, let's hang out on the playground after pickup and talk and hang out. And the single professional who overcomes social anxiety and gets to trivia night. The empty nesters who move to a retirement community and start going to activities, meeting people. The teenager who gets off their phone and starts playing Dungeons and Dragons with their friend on Sunday afternoon. And folks who show up in a church, wondering and hoping, will someone here know me? Will they guide me when I'm lost in the woods? Will they care about me? The second big trend is, well, fascism. I don't need to say much here. You know the score. Rising authoritarianism is not just in the United States, but around the world. And the trend is not new, and it is not about one spray-tanned octogenarian. It's good, I will say, to make fun of authoritarians. It robs them of their longed-for mystique. I was in a conference this week. We were talking about this, and strategic ridicule was lifted up as an important part of the work. So put on the frog suit by all means. Put on the frog suit. It's good to mock them. It takes away their power, but we also don't want to minimize the concern either. The concern is real, and so let's not gaslight ourselves. My significant critique of too many so-called opposition politicians and supposedly independent institutions is that they are sleepwalking in the woods, convinced that it will all be fine, that history is over, and this is just a blip. But I believe that among us here, the rose-colored head in the sand silliness is long gone, that we know at least that we're lost in the woods. The first step, right? And the third thing, the third big trend is spiritual hunger. It's openness, it's longing for a more than this, for meaning, for something larger than material existence, a longing to inhabit the world, as Michelle Mills put it, to be alive, to drink deeply from the well, to dance and read poetry and get off the hamster wheel, to love the earth and its creatures, to not live on the surface, but live in the depth. There is this longing, this heart desire. It started before COVID, but I have seen it even more since, a sense that we want more. More authentic, more real, more loving, more alive for ourselves and our children and theirs. That this day-to-day, mundane, obey in advance, punch the card and move on, that this life isn't what we are for. It isn't what we're made for. What was I made for, the song says? I don't know how to feel, but I want to try. These three trends present for us, the inheritors of a great liberal and liberating tradition of love and courage and justice. They present for us a moment of opportunity and a moment of peril. It's a time to be brave. Not foolish, but brave. To shape ourselves for this moment. We can't stay on the surface. We cannot perform community or authenticity. We have to go to the woods and get lost together. To be vulnerable and real, to inhabit the world. To meet this moment, our congregations and our leaders will need to have a little Sheila Ray and a little Louise. We need to admit that we're lost and we don't know the way. I am not impressed with folks who tell us the one magic trick or the one essential thing that will make the church grow or restore humanity or this, that, or the other. We need to be curious and open. To throw away the old map. It was never the territory anyway. This means, practically, that I think we need to stop doing some things. We need to stop talking only with folks we already know or only who agree with us. We absolutely need to stop tolerating abusive and harmful behavior in our congregations and in our lives. We need to stop undercutting leaders, especially when those leaders do things in ways that are different. It's a different moment and a different time, and we need to learn and fail and make mistakes and learn more and keep trying. We need to stop looking busy, filling our calendars with distractions, and slow down and be present and make and keep our promises. And I wonder for you, what's on your stop doing list as you confront this moment? We also need to start doing things. Start being even more generous of spirit and wallet. We need to give praise and welcome others with warmth and laugh and open our hearts and pray and sing. We need to be religious. In this moment, it's critical for us to claim our religious heritage and our possibility and our identity, to not let other people define what religious means or what spiritual means or what people of faith means or what love means, but to claim those words and those ideas for ourselves in our heart, to be religious, unapologetically, progressively religious. We need to inhabit the world. It is what we are made for, to inhabit the world with lusciousness and verve and power, to be grounded and to fly all at once, to notice and to praise. Folks are, I'm sure, coming here like they're coming to most of our congregations right now because they hunger. They hunger for connection and for meaning and for a base from which to resist the power of hatred and division and evil. Is that why you're here? The real reason? Because you hunger for something more? One of my colleagues in a workshop I was helping to lead yesterday said, people say they come because they want community. They do, but what's under that is this longing for belonging and flourishing and aliveness. That's why we're here. We hunger to inhabit the world, to turn away from aggressive reaction to something deeper, something beautiful, something worth living for. And the question is this: are we then offering a way of life that will honor and meet and nourish that hunger in this time? Community that's real, struggle that's sustainable, love that's alive, joy that's present in this work. Are we willing to go where there's no map and we will get lost? Are we willing to follow someone else home? Are we willing to cross the borders that people in power want us to make between each other so we don't get to know each other's souls? Are we willing to meet our neighbor where they are and suspend our confidence that we already have all of the answers? That's a challenge for me as much as for all of you. Now look, we're not the first. That's the good news. I've been thinking about our ancestors who summoned their courage, who got lost so they could find a new way. People like Unitarian minister Theodore Parker, who preached abolition and liberation. And the Unitarian Frances Ellen Watkins Harper, a black woman poet in the 19th century, who said, "I have something to say, and you will listen." And the Sharps, Unitarians who went to Europe and who lied and sneaked and dissembled and saved hundreds of Jewish lives from the death machine of the Holocaust. We are not the first to face such times, and we must not shrink from this moment either. It's a time for bravery, strategic, accountable, faithful bravery. It's a time for generosity, deep and transformative and multifaceted generosity, and it's a time for curiosity of our own heart, about our neighbors, about what's growing still under the earth. And it's a time for love, to answer its call, to be summoned by its demand, to know there's always more, to choose to bless the world. Earlier in the service, we sang the hymn, Answering the Call of Love. And I made a mistake, because I didn't ask Reverend Randy, does the congregation already know the new words? That was on me, because I assumed, but that was on me. So there are words in the blue hymnal that some of you read, but we've changed them, because it used to say, we are standing on the side of love. Sheila Ray, we are brave, we have the answers, we are on the right side of history already. And the author of the words was convinced that that was both ableist language, right? We're standing like that's the only way to do justice work, and that it had this victory kind of thing in it. That wasn't working. So now it's answering the call of love. We're called by something larger than ourselves, and we keep trying to answer that call. So next time you sing it, you'll know to use answering the call, and you'll know the theological reason why. Because we're being called to something we don't already know the answers to. And we make that choice over and over and over again to answer the call. That's the good news. That we're not already made, we're not already finished, but we can become more made for such a time as this. We can answer the call. We can practice the habits of inhabiting the world. We can love more than power or being right. We can open our hearts and our doors and try new things. We can do this. Because love, capital L, love, is, thank God, larger than we can imagine, larger than our past, larger than our fears, larger than any one of us alone. This is the good news. There is enough love for everyone. It flows there right under the surface. The well is not dry. There is more love. We have a choice to bless or curse the world, to flee from or inhabit the world, to get lost so we might get found, or pretend we already know where we're going. To go it alone or to go it together. It is my prayer that we meet this moment with wise bravery, with open hearts, with water for the parched soul. It is my prayer that we open our own hearts to the pain and the longing and the fear and the love that's right there, right below the surface. And when we feel our own despair, our own love, our own hunger, that we'll see it and honor it and know it and make room for it in the souls of one another. This is the way. There is no other way but love and community and authentic longing, named aloud in courage. There is no other way. This is the good news. The love we need to meet this moment is reliable and powerful and surprising and not in our control and enough. It is more than enough. When we get lost and we admit that we need more than us, more than what we already think we know, that love will come and help lead us home. May it be so. Amen and ashe. We're going to sing together, There Is More Love. It's 95 in your gray hymnal, and I think the words might also be in the order service, yeah? And I'll invite you to rise in body spirit. This is a song from the African-American spiritual tradition, a song of There Is More Love, and I am going home. So it is a song not to be sung quietly, but loudly and strongly. So I invite you out of respect. So rise and sing together.
There are so many amazing things going on in our community that I couldn't possibly tell you about them all, so I'll tell you about just a few. The first is next Sunday service, which is celebratory in two ways. The first is because we're going to be honoring the newest members of our congregation with a special welcome ceremony, so you'll want to be there. The second is because we'll be holding our annual bread ceremony next week, in which we share bread during the service to celebrate our connections with each other and the nurturing of our sacred relationships. I'd invite you to bring bread, whether homemade or store-bought, to the downstairs kitchen, not ideally up here to the sanctuary, just before the service. In the spirit of nurturing, we'd love it if you could experiment with gluten-free and vegan recipes, cut your bread into bite-sized pieces, and label it so that everyone can understand who can eat it. There'll also be a special bread patrol on hand to help get everything cut and ready to go, so don't despair. The other amazing thing is the Capital Campaign Kickoff Party, which is happening here at 6 p.m. on Friday, December 5th. And I think you have a flyer about this in your order of service. But just to make sure that you all know, kickoffs are a football thing, and so is this party, which is going to be the ultimate tailgate celebration with food, fun, games, kid-friendly stuff, and helpful updates on the campaign. So mark your calendars.
The words for our benediction from the poet Denise Levertov in her poem called The Fountain. Don't say there is no water to solace the dryness at our hearts. I have seen the fountain springing out of the rock wall and you drinking there, and I too before your eyes found footholds and climbed to drink the cool water. The woman of that place, shading her eyes, frowned as she watched, but not because she grudged the water, only because she was waiting to see we drank our fill and were refreshed. Don't say there is no water. That fountain is there among its scalloped green and gray stones. It is still there and always there, with its quiet song and strange power to spring in us, up and out through the rock.
Please join me in extinguishing the chalice with the words found on the back of the yellow card in the pew rack in front of you. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again.